All right, so we want to welcome you to the School Turnaround Podcast. So we're in Indianapolis, Indiana for NBA All-Star Weekend. So I am here with Charles Paul, the father of Chris Paul, NBA All-Star. And one of the things I wanted you to do, you had a chance to, see the event
Oh,
today.
yes.
And so just tell us your initial thoughts about the event as a whole. But then in addition to that, think about what impact you think we've made on the
Oh,
boys while we were
man.
here.
The impact when you look at these kids' faces and these boys' faces is just unbelievable because I always tell them, if we had something like this when I was a kid,
Mm-hmm.
what a difference it would have made in my life.
Right.
Just, with positive people being around and being able to come to an event like this,
Yeah.
and especially to talk about education.
Right.
I mean, because whether you realize it or not, it is reversed. Now it's sports and not education.
Right.
Instead of it always being education to sports.
Right.
So it's important that we keep giving this message because when you see the statistics of these kids that's going into the NBA and coming out
Mm-hmm.
early,
Right.
way before they would have still been in college
Right.
instead of being out back on the street or
Mm-hmm.
trying to go overseas and still chasing. I mean, the stories need to be told about the ones that didn't make it as much as the ones that did make it.
Right. Exactly. And one of the things that you all stress, yourself and many of the fathers today, was this focus on education, right?
Yes, yes.
And so, as we know, many of the boys who came here today maybe are not doing so well in school.
Right.
Right. They, like you said, they focus on the sports or the girls or,
Oh,
all
yeah.
the other distractions. So how do you think like an event like this, since I focus a lot on school turnaround and student turnaround, how you think something like this could turn around a situation for them?
I talked to a couple of guys that was talking about,
Okay.
they wasn't thinking about going to school. I said, well, what are you going to do? And then he said, well, I'm going to get a job. I said, a job doing what?
Mm-hmm.
And then he was like, a working contract. I said, don't you think you need to know about that?
Right.
I said, you can go to a 2-year institution and learn more about that than just going out there on them. I said, because everything now is about what you learn and about you got to be talking to people. Just like when we went out there and they talked and networked.
Yes.
I said, it's not about what you know, it's who you know now.
That's right.
And your character going to take you a long way because people will say, hey, that sure is a nice young man over there.
Yeah.
What is he doing? What is he interested in? I want somebody like that, with me in my firm.
Mm-hmm.
And, they can tell whether you're educated or not now.
Yeah. Yeah, they could tell.
Pants hanging down and all that kind of stuff. And you gotta present yourself.
Right.
You just can't assume that people know what you're about. You gotta show yourself
Exactly.
presentable.
Right. And one thing that was a surprise to them, I knew what was going to happen, but most people didn't, the scholarship.
Oh man, that was unbelievable.
So you think about
another thing that happened that if when we was young coming up, a lot more kids would have made a difference in their life.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So, and the scholarship and preparing them for education, because when you look back on how you were raising Chris and CJ, and you dealt with the power of that education. So think about from what you've seen in your years, just being in and around the NBA, right? What are some careers you feel that many of these kids could do just in professional sports without being an athlete, from what you've seen?
Well, one guy was here that he was an agent. And, he was working around basketball.
Right.
And you could work for teams. I mean, it's a lot of teams that need, like Hilton's son. He played in the NBA. He went overseas and played. Now he's working with the Warriors.
Right.
So those are all kind of jobs that you could do. Sports medicine.
Yep.
I mean, it's all kind of stuff. It ain't just got to be in the NBA. It could be in football.
Right.
It could be in soccer.
Right.
It could be whatever sport that you like. If you like that sport or love it, you can go further.
Right.
You can go further than playing.
Right. And for any parents that are listening out there who has a young male of color like what you saw here today, you're a very involved parent yourself.
Right.
So what advice would you give parents, for these young men that you see today of how they can stay the course with their kid, even when they make mistakes, so they could be successful?
That's the thing, that when they make mistakes, just realize that you are the parent. It can't be role reversal.
Yeah.
The kid telling you what they want to do, where they want to go, and telling you how much they want to do. You got to be there to support them. As a parent, you're supposed to support your child.
Yeah.
And you're supposed to help him make decisions that you already you might not have been through, but you are another adult.
Yeah.
You've seen other people make mistakes. You've seen other people be successful. So you should use that other people's example to show your kid, and stress education and express character. Those things that we always, when Chris and CJ's come up, when they just say yes sir, yes ma'am, people go like that's unheard of.
Wow.
Oh, that's just normal stuff that we was trained as kids.
Right.
Not because we was black or less than.
Right.
But that was a standard.
That was a standard.
It was a standard.
Right. And the last question I want to ask you this before you go, because since you've seen a lot being, in this professional sports world, what advice would you give educators on what these young men need? Could we say, go get your education, but what are some tangible things that you've kind of seen that you feel educators should really put into these boys?
The educators should focus on them boys and tell them all the possibilities. All the people and all the sports people, they tell you what your projection is going to be, as you're going to be 7 foot, you're going to be the next best LeBron James, Chris Paul. They don't tell them to be the next you.
Right.
Take that step of being you, because all these guys that are who they are now, they were them younger before they became the great football player, the great basketball players.
Right.
They were somebody else before they got there.
Exactly.
And so that's what the teachers need to focus on. Hey, just be you. Just be you and put in the work.
Right.
Put in the work in education, put in the work in the sports that you like.
Right. Well, Mr. Paul, we want to thank you. You are a legend in the parents of NBA players. You are the standard, right, of parenting, NBA players and professional sports players, because, I know people who know you and they say, Charles Paul is what every parent should be for a professional sport. So we want to just give you your kudos and your flowers for what you and your wife have done, as well. So we really appreciate it.
They always say, you still the same person. I'm like, who else can I be?
That's right.
Just because my son is in the NBA don't mean I'm supposed to change.
That's right. Exactly. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate you.
Appreciate y'all.
All right, my friend.
All right, thank y'all.